Hey, what's up? There are one or two things we are going to be a little bit heavy-handed in our critique of this week as well. So FYI, if you tuned in for that, well, there'll be a there, but you'll have to wade through because I am covering practically the most amount of games I think I've ever done in a roundup. This video is way too long. It took me way too long to get through this. I read way too many 20 to 40 page rulebooks. I mean, apparently now to come on crowdfunding, there is a prerequisite of you must have a rulebook of at least 26 pages or more. Sort of facetious, sort of not, folks, even with some of the less overall intense length games. So how do you feel about that, right? Power creep? Rule creep? Price creep? All of the above. Justify your deluxify, as you'll hear me say later, right? But that's what's going on. Plenty of surprises, a little bit of everything in between, way too much to talk about as a whole. I told you this day was going to be massive. I wasn't kidding. I just didn't know even it was going to be this massive. Hundreds of thousands of dollars being thrown around. Let's go. Week, am I going to piss people off again? Well, maybe. Maybe not as bad as last week, but we'll see. I'll try. Not really. I don't really try and do that, but, you know, strong opinions sometimes. You just got to throw them out there. Not to do it for the sake of doing it, but there's a lot of equivocating. I'm trying to not be like that. Maybe. Ha, see, that was a pun there. It was sort of I kind of said I didn't want to do it and then did it. I'm done. Let's go. The hundreds of thousands of dollars, folks, are just being thrown around. We're starting with my favorite of the week. That's right. I said it's my favorite. Keep the heroes out. Boss battles. Lewis has got a great thing. Go for this game if you want. You can already see at the top of the screen, I'm backing. Because, you know, it's one of those where, you know, if he's willing to send me a review copy, great. If he's not, well, I'm backing it in anyway, right? So what do you need to know? 72-hour early bird. By the time you're watching this, the 72 hours is probably up. So you should have gotten in already. You know, I told you last weekend, it was going to be a big week. This is what you need to know. You're going to get the game. You're going to get the expansions. This is the tower defense-esque reverse cooperative game where you're fighting off the heroes, if you will, in a tile-driven action economy system. And it just works. The freaking meeples are awesome. You get your own little faction, which is also, you know, this meeple actually matters, right? You only have one dragon. You have 6 skeletons. You can only utilize so many on a map at a time, and you're going to be cycling through, and it just kind of gives you a different dynamic than you're used to in this reverse cooperative, you know, dungeon faring game. You get the boss battles here, which is awesome. I don't even know anything about it yet. I just know that you're going to be going up against this in a great way. Sparkling Guardian expansion. Great Dreamer, I've got the Great Dreamer. Sparkling Guardian, I'm all for it. I don't care. I love unicorns too, just like everybody else. You're deck building, you're tower defending, and you're winning. There's easy and medium and hard. They've given more adjustability with this expansion, it sounds like, too, to customize it if you want. And you know, this sounds really simple, right? You're only going to go through it 1 or 2 times. Yeah, it's hard. It's actually a really hard game. And they give you like 15 scenarios at least. I don't know. There's probably even like 20 in that. I don't even remember. There's a lot. This was a top 10 game for me from last year, folks. I feel that strongly about it. And so you just go for it. Is it the most random? Is it the most, you know, balanced? I don't know. Just fun. Just fun. Here's the boss battling, right? Revealing, crafting, secret chambers, boss entering the dungeon, revealing the boss card, defeating him, recruiting him. I'm all for it, right? Painted meeples to go along with the components if you want it extra as well. I don't really care. So the cool thing here with this boss battler is essentially what you're doing is you're revealing your heroes as you go along. So the boss ends up showing up after you reveal 2 of your heroes in the second time around, and then it's going to bring twists, including, well, better battles and a unique deck that you're going to have to deal with in order to get the victory. So then you just somehow have to defeat them. But if you can defeat the boss, you can recruit the boss. So, you know, again, everything everybody wants in these games, right? You want to play as the boss, and this allows you to do that as well. It shows you what's there. It gives you the meeple awesomeness. It gives you the new components, the new monsters, the new bosses, everything you need to know there. My video is actually somewhere on this page as well. There's a little bit of content of the new stuff up here, and you can learn how to play it from the game in the first place. So there's enough information out there that you should have a really good grasp, even if you go over to Board Game Geek, to figure out if this is for you or not. You know, I don't think I have actually the meeples for the Guild Master's Revenge. I think I just have the regular version. And I definitely don't have the Cozy Dungeon, I don't think. But I definitely do have the Great Dreamer. So, and Sparkling Guardian is probably going to end up my collection as well. So there you go. Look, that's me. Look, see, other people were interested in this one. Other people thought along the same lines as me. So, you know, I'm not totally crazy then. Totally crazy. Totally crazy it is. But there you go. That's why it's first up. Now this is where we're going to get to the strong opinions, folks. Spirit Fire. The secret, not so secret, that Board Game Revolution screwed up the launch date of, that revealed it, unfortunately for them. I don't know if they wanted to hype it or, again, I don't understand surprising and hiding a date like this. Surprise! You didn't have time to prepare your wallets, right? Well, it's from Unsettled and Vindication with Orange Nebula. Living board game. Spoilers right here. Living board game. All I see with this, this is reminding me. Let's go down here. I'll show you first, and I'll tell you where my mind goes. Non-linear open world board game system. Fantasy realms, introspective journey, discover, wonder, mystery. You are the story. There's no combat even. You get to wield something more powerful than the sword. It's your mind. Doesn't that sound like a Disney cliche? Anyway, you can get it in whatever color aesthetic you want. There's no difference in the gameplay at all, but you could just get to pick it in the pledge manager. Okay, awesome. You get the free little badge. You get the free little extra content they're going to craft along the way. The box color of your choice. There's the community pack that I was just talking about. And it kind of then breaks you down what you're getting, right? Your personal quest packs. Oh, you're going to be opening packs, folks, and putting in new content. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm not ready yet. Then it runs you through the fact that there's no combat. It's a substantive, emotionally driven experience with aspirations beyond expected iterations. Okay, it's time to wield something more powerful than the sword again. Conceive your character. Slip in and out of realms. Oh, I've heard of slipping in and out of realms. Dream Realms, if you remember that. And that one didn't go over so hot. New content packs as you unlock them. Adjusting circumstances, teaching new stuff, learning new stuff, overcoming variety of challenges. Granted, they don't ever tell you what those challenges are, what they look like, or what the mechanics you'll be doing to overcome them, but that's besides the fact. Exploring the world around you. Okay, have we gone through enough yet? Are you getting where I'm going with this? This is solo with friends, and at least they put this on the page, right? Solo with friends. This is a solo game. It's not a multiplayer game. If you want to handhold and kumbaya it and, do that sort of thing, Seventh Continent style, Mage Knight style, not even Mage Knight style, but, Seventh Continent-esque, right? Then you can do it. But this is solo only. This is really a solo game masquerading as a multiplayer game. You're going to have decision making. It very much reminds me of Dragon Eclipse. Not that I was going to go there, but what I'm really going is this reminds me overall of, you ever go to a fancy restaurant and they start changing the names of how the dishes are prepared, or they start giving more descriptors to the dish in and of itself? Sort of like this website is dedicated to making your menu sound longer and more expensive, right? They compare the wild mushroom cream soup versus the wild mushroom soup. $7 for wild mushroom, sour cream, and scallions? No. This is a hand-picked variety of mushrooms cooked to perfection, mixed in with velvety cream and served with fresh chopped scallions. Right? That kind of sounds like what we've got going on here, right? These are packs, right? Packs are going to open up and put more gameplay content to. I have tons of other games that do that. They just give you a big stack and they say, go find this card and add it to your deck, right? Holy crap, am I missing something here? There must be more to this than that, right? I am totally overthinking this and totally overdoing this, right? I don't know. It just screams, I hate to say this, a little bit of pretentiousness, just like those menus do. And I think there's probably a very solid Seventh Continent style meets Unsettled game in here. But there's a lot of fluff going on talking about the experience and the journey. And, it's open world and all of this stuff. But I don't understand how to play any of it either at the same time. Each challenge is wildly unique. Okay, what does it look like? No idea. Completing the quests will unlock things. Okay, what do those quests be? Do we know? No. Do you get characters? Yeah, you can get more characters. Yeah, there's 1,652.70 cards, right? I know, I said what I said, right? Give you the different aesthetic. That's nice. They give you a few add-ons here for deluxeifications. There are going to be some stretch-ish goals, unlocks, whatever it may be. There's a video or two down here, I think, somewhere with, playthroughs and impressions. There you go. But you're going to have to watch this if you want to know anything about the game whatsoever in any detail. And that drives me crazy. Again, I'm all for hyping up a game. but I don't have a clue after staring at the first 3 quarters of this page what I'm actually doing. No idea whatsoever. And that bothers me. And I'm going to be one of the few ones it bothers, I guess. Because, I mean, it's going to raise a bunch of money. It sounds like a great concept. But I buy games now for not just the concept. I buy them for the, am I going to love it from a gameplay standpoint? And this one, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm sure there's going to be more information out before this campaign ends. And I'm going to circle back around this one at, the end of the month, the beginning of November, to talk about it in my should you back or reasons why not to back anything. And hopefully I can give you a more substantial thought on the gameplay at that point. But at this point, it's totally to be determined. And that's slightly disappointing. Anyway, King's Crown. If you missed it, I put my video out at the beginning of this week. This is a fantastic game. Don't believe me? Go watch the Cardboard Herald. I think he did a video too. His video is probably on the page. This is a bluffing, area control, manipulation, asymmetric game that has probably, I'll dare say, a little bit too many keywords for your first playthrough to be smooth. However, you get past the first or second play and you're really going to love this game if that's your type of thing. It's sort of a little bit of Oriflamme meets Zuvetus, if you will, in a completely different way, where you're laying down these cards next to these 3 areas of the map and then having different ways of manipulating them through the 4 seasons that you're going to be dealing with. Grabbing kingdom cards to give your asymmetry even more strength, or bluffing in a reverse deck building way, trying to winnow down the cards that you need to control areas, but also unlock other things in order to actually get the best cards you can in the first place. Getting rid of cards in order to reclaim your area control markers that are going to give you bonus strength in those 3 areas in the first place. There's a lot of dynamic mechanics that actually really all freaking work well together. They just do. The aesthetic is probably, I don't want to say that, the aesthetic is the best one out this week by far and away. And we have some great ones. You just saw Spiritfiler. I actually think this is better than that. Plenty of information here. You can watch these guys give some run-throughs and how to plays. They'll do a better summary than I can. The only question then leaves you with, is this your actual type of game? And then, is it going to be worth it to get on a crowdfunding? I don't know. First-time game designers here. So will it show up at retail? Won't it? I have no idea. Solo mode, didn't play it. Didn't play it. I'm not a soloer, so you know what you're getting from me. Apparently, actually, what are we getting here extra? I don't even know. Wild Kingdom cards. Ooh, Kingdom cards, by the way, are the best part of this game. My favorite part right there. Little modules. Oh, little modules. Oh, okay. That's cool. A couple little modules would, again, I worry about it overcomplicating things, but again, just sort of the piece de resistance, the scallions on the mushroom soup, if you watch the previous part of this video. Again, take it for what you will. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. Your asymmetric factions, tabletop simulator as well. It's not going to be everyone's thing. I said that, frankly speaking, in my video, and that's okay. But if you want to know what this one does and doesn't do, check it out. Get the information from other people's videos, and I'm sure you'll be very happy with it. So, there you go. Plenty of information out there, and I give it my blessing right now. So, there you go. Old King's Crown. Now, Nocturne. He's pledging for Nocturne too. WTF. Yeah, I'm a sucker for flat-out games right now. Now, my track record is a little mixed. I am not as enamored with Fit to Print recently with that one, but this puzzly, spatial-like game that Rado is giving his blessing to actually really intrigues me, because essentially what you've got going on is a little bit of furnace-style bidding with Skyrise from Roxley going on at the same time, only in a tile-laying aspect. Because essentially what you're doing is you have these bidding strength tiles that you're going to be placing on top of the ones in the center, and you go orthogonally adjacent until somebody either decides not to beat you, or they just can't place one next to you because you've backed it into the corner. Then you get that tile. If you do that enough times through 2 big rounds of emptying all the tiles out in the middle, then you set collect with various endgame scorings and victory point conditions and abilities to see who gets the most points. Sounds simple, sounds straightforward. Yeah, it just kind of sounds like a Liege game, if you will. And, you know, I freaking love Cascadia. I love Cascadia landmarks. Not as big a fan of Fit to Print. I thought Fit to Print was going to be an absolute smashing success for me, and that's my only hesitation at this point. but the game is there. You're getting a little extra because it's flat out games. You're going to get it for a better price because it's not going to show up at, you know, discounted retailers online. 29 plus whatever, like 12 or whatever bucks it is shipping is going to be what it's going to be. You have some asymmetry, you have an advanced mini variant that you can do as well to go along with it. And it's going to be something that either you like or you don't like. It runs you through right here, everything I just said. Plenty of people to give you some previews. The rulebook is also there, so you can check that out and read it like I did earlier today. You may look at this comparatively wise and go, well, Chris, this is clearly not doing as well. But if you actually look at the backer number for a $29 game, folks, 1,500 people at the time of me filming this, that backer number is the most impressive thing. And so we'll see where this one ends up, because you know it's going to end up somewhere between at least like 100 and 200,000, because it's still got 45. I didn't notice that the first time around. Well, you got plenty of time. Go check it out. Next up, the onslaught continues. Critter Kitchen, the follow-up from Cardboard Alchemy to, say, your previous Flamecraft. And you're going to get a little bit of the Flamecraft accoutrements with your maitre d', because that's what you're doing as a zoo chef. Not a sous chef. They actually purposely say Z as in creature, right? And so what you're doing over this 7-round game is you are slowly gathering ingredients in a priority management style game, in a way of programming as you lay your cards down at the beginning of your turn, telling one of your 3 workers where they're going to go. And each of your workers has a different speed as well as capacity. The fastest, the mouse, has a 1 carrying capacity, but it goes first at any location it's at to gather an ingredient that you want. The second one I'm forgetting is, you know, one of the other creatures I'm forgetting. Like the third one is the boar. Second one is the lizard. Second one has 2, speed 2, boar, carry 3, but get 3rd place at any place that it's getting. And the tricky point is when you're gathering these resources from these places, a la mode, it says, you know, you get them in order, right? So the first person gets 1, but then the second person gets 1, and then the third person gets 1. And then if there's stuff left over, the second person would get 1 again, because again, the first person will only carry 1. So that's the ordering it goes. So it doesn't just go if you're the 2 and the 3 there, the 2 gets 2, and then the 3 gets whatever left over. No, it goes 2 and then 3 and then 2 and then 3 and then 2. So I mean, you know, well, maybe not 2 that last time, but you know what I'm saying. And that's what you're getting in this worker placement style gathering game, because then you also have a refrigeration that you can only carry so many ingredients in. At the end of rounds 3 and 6, you're going to be potentially scoring challenge plates, but at the end of round 7, you have to score potentially up to 7 dishes presented to the critic, and the critic is going to have certain criteria. And so the scoring is going to be based off of who gives the best of each of these 7 dishes, essentially, along with a few side quests that are going to go along the way. And the thing that you really need to know is, just like with a critique of Marvel Dice Throne last week, the retail version is going to be $40. Okay, you're not going to get that, right? Well, you know, it does get you a free a la carte expansion and stretch goals. So maybe you actually get it on the crowdfunding. However, then we bump up to $80 for Holy Deluxifications, Silk Screening, wooden meeples, coins, tokens, drawstring bags, game trays. But wait, there's more! You want all the merch too? You can get it all for $160. $160, folks. If you didn't think price creep was real. Again, another week where that's okay, but that's what you're doing. And it shows you, again, what your challenge cards are that you're going for here as you're creating them. These are the ingredients that are required. And certain things like soups are able to be shuffled in and out. There's asymmetry that you can use. There's 6 critic cards that are going to be in the base game as well. And so there's going to be enough of that. And it's not going to be a completely multiplayer solitaire, as they say, because you're going to be trying to edge out people at locations, and you're going to be seeing what they have, and you're going to be seeing where they place theirs potentially, or where you think they're going to place theirs. And so you're going to try and edge them out in terms of speed sometimes of what you want to do. 6 to 7 player mode. Oh, good gracious. Yeah, it's simultaneous play, but that's just a lot of people with one game. Like this. Again, these meeples actually look kind of cool. I give them kudos. That's cool. I don't know if I'd pay for it though. This one is definitely going on my wish list as a lower one, but I'm not sure that I need the Deluxifications for $80 right now. That'd be the only thing that I'd worry about. I don't actually know what the expansion is bringing apart from the extras right there. Let's see. Does it kind of go through? Let's see. Deluxified, 6 to 7 player mode. Is that just kind of what it is? Yeah, the expansion here. So basically just a little bit of everything else. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. And you're going to see plenty of video telling you how awesome it is down here. Why you back the campaign here is you're getting a little perk. and you get a little promos to go along with it. And the promos, by the way, are for the expansion as well as the base game. So again, more awesome things about why everyone should buy it, more achievements, more unlocks. You're getting tons of value there. Preview videos, breakdown videos, everything you need to know. Shipping is going to be whatever. Because if you're going to go deluxe, well, you know, you're not going to worry about shipping, to be frank with you. Shipping is not going to be the make it or break it for an $80 game or $100, $160 game. So they offer actually like a puzzle and metal coins and other things like that if you want to. Again, I think it looks better than I was expecting. This actually has more appeal to me than Flamecraft, but that price point, even the $40 one, I'm going to have to look and see when it gets towards the end of the campaign if the expansion and the other content are going to be worth it. Because it's sort of like with Cascadia Landmarks, I don't really like paying for a mode that I'm not going to play. 5 to 6 players. I'm not going to play Cascadia of 5 to 6 players. Could I? Absolutely. Do I have the game group and the wherewithal to do that? No, I don't. So adding a 6 to 7 player mode and bundling it in with an expansion for extra gameplay content, not always a big fan. But overall, I mean, you can see why it's got 370,000. Let's go. So, my favorite things. This has some very strong quotes at the top here. My favorite things is a social party game, and String Railway is a combination of dexterity based with also a mini expansion cubed version to go along with it, which imports an 18xx version. $30,000, and you'll see these super strong quotes right here. Now, if you buy 2 of these, you actually get the cubed version for free. Now, I don't like that. I would just rather pay less for String Railway in the first place. My favorite things here is Actuals, and no pun included, big quotes, and then shut up and sit down in Dice Tower on that one, right? So you can't have bigger endorsements on a page in that sense. My favorite things, essentially what you do is you prompt a category, everyone writes 5 of their favorite things and 1 of their least favorite things for that category. You mix them up, swap them around or whatever, and then you lay one down of that category because you get other people's that you don't know what they are. And so if you lay the highest ranking one of that based off of what you think other people ranked, well, then you win the trick. But if someone plays the one that is the least favorite, then that one, if the number 1 has been played, outranks the number 1, sort of like trumps it. And then you go and social party-ish and play until you whatever, right? You know, whatever. It's fine. It's a very clever. I like it. It'd be fine to play. I'm not a big party game person, though. I don't have like more than 1 or 2 in my collection. String Railway is something completely different, right? You outline a string around the outside. You have sort of a road and a mountain or whatever, a mountain and a river, I believe, in the middle. And then what happens is you lay these strings down connecting station cards from one place to another, because each of these are going to have different requirements. And you get points by conducting certain ones, and you get points by certain side quests, but you also lose points by overlapping them. The bridge card here is more of the exclusive, and the cubed version is adding in a resource management along those strings in the first place, and that's the extra game right there. Again, it shows you right here where it is. There's not a whole lot more to it than that. This one actually appeals to me much more. Again, this is a freaking amazing week. I don't know what to say. This is a game where I'd say it reminds me of Lacuna behind me, where a game that you look at and shouldn't work in theory, and then you play it and you go, wow, this really is a lot of fun. I don't need the 18xx version, so I'm looking at it from that side of things. A slight extra there to get it, and again, as a Japanese game, this is probably not going to be widely available. Slight stretch goals here as a whole. Take that for what you will, because, you know, again, you're probably just not going to get it elsewhere. And their game Overstocked, I don't believe is actually widely available in the first place in retail. So, String Collection, I'll be reminding me on this one, and there you go. Next up, Wondrous Creatures from Bad Comet. You may remember them from their other games. This one is another 32-page rulebook, and I'll be frank with you, though. Of all the rulebooks I've read in the past 2.5 days, this one is probably one of the easier 20 to 40-page rulebooks. Take that for what you will, right? But this is doing something slightly different, slightly asymmetric with your worker placements as you lay them down onto this hex-based board. Because as you lay them on the hex-based board over, you know, a certain number of rounds that is not really predetermined, but you play until trophies are all taken, and then everyone gets 1 turn. And those trophies, as well as other ways of scoring victory points along a point buffet style of things, is going to give you your end game score in order to achieve this. And what you essentially do is you have crew. You have these creatures that can also be ridden by your crew captain. And you lay them down, and it's sort of a 2-person worker placement when you have them on top of each other in that sense. But the tricky part is you get either the hexes that you're on, as well as the hexes that you're around and touching, like encircling. And the hexes that you're touching, but as well as the hexes around where you're touching. And you get to choose whether to take cards or resources from them, and how you do that and how you dedicate that, including gathering things like eggs and resources and achievements that are going to be slowly done, as well as upgrading your workers, and so that they can lay down on different terrains and they can get different different resources from different terrains, and you can achieve different cards as you're laying them down in order to combo engine build, because some of them will be instant actions and some of them will be passives that will stay out. That's what you're going to be doing as you go along, because you can also upgrade your actual workers in the first place to give more asymmetry. But you can only have certain amount of asymmetry because you only have 6 basically achievement tokens to upgrade them. And so you're going to have to choose carefully which ones you want and how you want to spread them out. Everything that I just said is right here. Evolving map as you go along. It's actually going to change as you collect more eggs, as you adjacent your worker next to certain places, and how things get laid down. So that's going to be kind of cool. The tableau building, like I mentioned, of these cards that are either instants or passives, and then these eggs that you're going to be hatching as you go along, they're going to give you resources and bonuses there. So lots of combos, lots of combolicious stuff available to you. Again, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, though. This is going to be a deluxified Euro game with the expansion to go along with it for, $100 shipped. Honestly, it's probably one of the sleeper hits of the week for me that I wasn't expecting to like as much as I did, just like String Collection. So I'm relatively impressed by this one. I don't know if the dynamic of the process of this is going to be as intriguing as I think it is in my head, but it's one that I am pleasantly more surprised by now than I was with a lot of the other ones this week too. It's just going to be expensive. And again, this is an expensive week. This is probably the biggest week I've talked about in a long time, with the many games overall. So shipping, again, if you're going to buy an $85 game, 15 or 20 bucks on shipping, it shouldn't be the make it or break it. The gameplay should. So there you go. Take that for what it is. Bad comment though. I think they're doing better with every single one. I believe they have Life of Amazonia as well as the Wild Serengeti. So I think each of those have been statistically better. And so we'll see if Wondrous Creatures holds up as well. Through the Desert, all play. Again, breaking 100K on their first day here. Again, 1,400 people. You're getting 3 different mixes of games. You got the Good Doctor's game coming back, getting a reprint, getting a little bit modularity and a better aesthetic. And you got 2 new ones, Switchback and A Message from the Stars. And again, am I pledging for that one too? God, I know I told you this is going to be a bad week, folks. I am a doctor simp. That sounds weird. I don't have Through the Desert. This is the tile-laying masterpiece style of game that I love. If that wasn't evidenced by my review of Cascadero, it should be with this. Take it for what you will. You're connecting your camels, making your little trade routes, blocking off oases, encircling things, getting asymmetric points, and just being really mean. Take that in a tile-laying-esque game with your friends. And that screams something that I love. Now, the other 2, let's talk. Message from the Stars, cooperative-based word deduction. Whoo, that's not a Liege game. Ooh, me and word games do not get along as much as my vocabulary may say otherwise. That's more because my mother was an English teacher. And then we have Switchbacks, tile laying, shared incentives. So then they show you a little bit of what you're going to be getting here with the extra content. The extra add-on for this game is actually the Bazaar expansion. And this Bazaar expansion is actually going to give you 4 modular expansions that you can see broken down here. Salt, crocodiles, rival nomads, as well as special water holes. Then it tells you how to play. Just like I said, you're basically laying stuff down, circling, creating area majorities. That's how you're trying to do things. You get plenty of turns, but they're all going to be potentially very take that, as a good number of these Nizia tile layers are. Next up, we have Message from the Stars. This is more of the deductive, pure reasoning, code word deciphering game. And again, as I said previously, word games, not my thing. Super deductive games where, perfect information style, a little dry for me. That was my problem with Search for Planet X. Absolutely fantastic game, just couldn't get into it. And essentially what you're doing here is you have 3 sets of ciphers that you're going to be going back and forth with, either as the alien team or the scientist team, and you're going to be trying to decipher what the other person's messages are going back and forth. A little bit like that online app game that was really popular during COVID. I'm completely forgetting, where you choose how many, where you sort of submit what you think your guess is, right, and it tells you how many are correct or whatever. They've kind of got that vibe going on here with this game. Now, however, you need to know that this is going to be an app-based game situation as well for some of the deduction, so in order not to spoil in case you mess up. And so that's just what you kind of got going back and forth here. You can see how you're going to be doing it and sending these ciphers back and forth. They run you through, again, all of these rule books are on the page in the first place. For part of your cipher, the first one you have to include 2 greens and a black, and then you have to do a red and a green, and then just a black. And so you have to give different parts of the cipher different colors in order to make the challenge acceptable, I guess. So again, plenty of information there. Switchbacks is the last one. This is a very different tile laying game. in the lines of one of the other roll-in rights, the one with the musical going across America, again, blanking on names here today, but essentially what you're doing is you are putting these tiles down in somewhat of a numerical order, but everybody's going to be laying down tiles at the same time, going around on a turn-by-turn basis. And what you need to have is you need to have your hikers on a least set of 4, hence the example here, in a row. If they're not, they score 0 points. If they do, well, however many are on that track score 1 point each. You can buddy them up 2 in 1 square, or you can put them on separate squares, but you can only put them down on the one tile that you just laid. You go around until all the tiles are filled up, but you're going to have, what, like almost 30 of these hexes, they say, or so. You're not going to fill them all up because at the beginning of the game, each player gets a hidden hex and with a number on it so that you know that that number is not in one of the ones that's getting played. So therefore, the runs that you're going to see may be interrupted, and you know what one run is going to be interrupted, but you don't know what other ones are going to be interrupted as well. So that's what you've got going on with this. I mean, that's light. It's also potentially heavily take that, but it gives you sort of a Zen filler versus heavy take that, depending on which side of the coin you fall on. So they run you through all of these. Now, Message from the Stars is more expensive than I would have guessed. Through the Desert, it's about what I would have expected. You get, I believe, some of the expansion upgrades if you get all 3 of them right there. So that's fine. But as always, buy 1, save more. So right now, Through the Desert with the modular expansions. Are the modular expansions worth it? Probably not if you know all expansions, but $4 for any one game versus the 3-game bundle. I mean, they do a pretty good job on shipping regardless. You can look at these prices. These are pretty good across the board, actually. So that is all play. Those are their 3 games, and that's my opinion on them right now. So again, I put up my video earlier in the week talking about Source and TimeStrike here, $73,000. I mean, this is an absolutely fantastic product for an RPG folk. This is just absolutely a tremendous hex-based Heroscape style of terrain building. It works fantastically. Check out my video if you really want to see it in detail. I mean, the biggest criticism you could probably say from the get-go for the actual, terrain style itself is just that you maybe want some more variety in the shapes. Not that you actually need them, though. The price, again, is really actually freaking good. And you're going to go, Chris, this is really expensive. Yeah, it is expensive. No lie here, folks. The base starter set is going to be $69. The content you're getting, though, comparatively to the other RPG terrain stuff that's out there, let alone anything like Dwarven Forge, but even the 3D, printable stuff or the stuff that's custom made and people sell sometimes on the secondary market, it's significantly more expensive. And I know that because I bought some of this stuff during the pandemic because we were trying to play D&D right before the pandemic started. And I have firsthand experience with what the prices are elsewhere for this stuff. And so it is really, really good in that sense. And the product just freaking works. It's just a really, really solid product. It's light, it's packable, it's easily, put out and build however you want. The problem with it is probably that if you want to get any of this elevation that you've got going on in these boxes, the problem that you see here illustrated by this GIF is that you have not probably enough in the starter set to make some of the elevation that you see here. So that's going to be the biggest challenge as a whole from that aspect. They've got a couple games going along with it. They've got a golf game, which I did not play, but then they also have TimeStrike, which is sort of an open world sandbox game that takes into account the elevation of the terrain as well from a Heroscape standpoint, where it is a 1 versus 1 player versus player style of things, where you each take 3 heroes and then you go head to head against the other player, but also the environment as a whole. And you have basically a loot boss machine that's trying to kill both of the teams, but you're also going to hit it and you can get loot to power up your team in the first place, how you divvy up your actions, including fishing and quests along with that. It's more of a lighter style game though, trying to give it more depth though. And so it's just very raw, and that's fine. A lot of the, heavier work, I would argue, has gone into the other product, and that's okay. It's a great product. Is it going to all be at the quality that you want? And so they've got a lot of time to polish this over. Reminds me more of Madara, as I said in my video, where, okay, it's going to be what you see when you get it versus what you see now. So they give you some of the background. There's a lot more content on here, though, than I had with the prototype. So it gives me hope that there's going to be more evolution of that between here and there as well. I mean, I had like one of the bosses and 2 of the brutes, which are like the semi-minion dudes. And I had like 1 quest and a very similar set of fishing stuff that you got as rewards item-wise. So the gear was fine. The skills are going to be a little bit more basic. It wasn't anything as crazy as something like God Tier or Battle for Eternia, but it's still going to give you something light and portable and easy to play along the lines of a Heroscape, and the direct comparison is going to be there. The aesthetic value is off the charts, though, for this. I mean, to be frank, this is just really cool. You can do a lot of cool things with this. They give a couple optional add-ons down here, I think, for trees and walls. So, oh look, there's my video. Haha! There you go. So, everything you need to know, and if you're looking for this, I mean, price point, you're not going to find a better price point for the amount of stuff. The only thing is whether or not you want a game to go along with it, or if you're just a D&D or RPG or Warhammer or whatever, you might just be better off, obviously, then with just getting this, because that's still a freaking metric ton of hexes. So there you go. Now, Takenoko Oyako Collector's Edition. I don't know. I mean, this is a remake of this game in a deluxified version. 250% bigger, right? Look at that massivature. It's almost going Simon proportions. 13 centimeter of this bamboo harvesting game. It's a big box. There's no changes to the actual gameplay. It's just a bigger, fancier, deluxified aesthetic, which I should just make the subtitle on the thumbnail nowadays. Just, which deluxify can you justify? Actually, made sense. I just did that off the top of my head, but deluxify just anyway. I'll need to put that on a t-shirt, actually, if anything else. And they run you through what the game is. I mean, it's a 2011 game. You can get the chibis. It shows you how you're going to be cultivating the lands, irrigating them, growing the bamboo, and playing the parts of the weather to make it optimized in the first sense. The rules are right there. There's no difference. It's just, do you want to pay $250 for this super deluxified version of things? Because you can only get the $125 one if you're in France. That's it. It's not going to go wide retail. It's going to be a Bezier-esque situation here. Do you really like it? Well, 200 people do. That's enough, though. $34,000. There you go. Next up, 2 nostalgia trips. We're going back and forth. Worldspanner Factions. And this one is a reprint, reversion, retheme, slightly different version of Duel of Ages 2, if you will. And it's giving you 3 big boxes to go along with it. $48,000 already. Only 294 people, though. So it's a little bit more expensive. You can tell just right there. One set, $59. Retail placeholder, full series, $179. And what are you getting with this, though? Right? This is a game that has long been out of print that they're bringing back. 174 heroes and foes. A lot of storage space. A lot of miniatures. So they went with standees. Again, boom! Liege, Team Standee right there. You're in some bonus points. Factions, they're doing it right away. This is going to be printed, turnaround, and it's going to be having you by, next July, which is, 9 months. That's crazy turnaround, actually. So they have a secret funding goal, whatever that is. This is just a game of craziness, of epic proportions, of just stuff that is just a cool storytelling. Now, the thing with this one, as well as the upcoming one, the remake of Dragon's Down version of Magic Realms, the thing similarly between both of them is that, do the mechanics actually hold up? Do simpler mechanics really enthrall people just the way they used to? And I'm going to make the argument right now that yes, just from a sheer money standpoint, but also yes, because, see Zombicide, right? So 2 versus 8 players. So 2 to 8 players overall. Co-op solo campaign. 5 to 8 player, well, you just divvy up how many characters are in each team, right? Typical game is going to play you from anywhere from 8 to 12 rounds. A typical game may have, say, 6 characters on a side. A more advanced game, if you're playing 2-on-2, may have 8 characters total, usually going head-to-head. And the thing is, you only take 1 action per character per turn, per round. And so you're going to be a lot of actions individually going back and forth as a melee, attacking, maneuvering, weaponizing, everything along those lines. I mean, the rulebook is relatively straightforward. You get some factions, you get a little bit of everything of what it's going to be and how it's different from Duel of Ages, like I previously mentioned. So they've got just the experiencing of the game right here, right? Indominus Rex mate with this new life form while Sun Tzu and Clawitz pronounce blessings over the Holy Union of Baba Yaga, flying overhead, sprinkling magic. The issue that you may have with this is the complexity of the character cards themselves, right? The character cards themselves just have a ton of information on them, and so you're going to have to learn that in the first set. Now, the other side of things as well is this is a campaign, which I feel a little bit mixed about, right? There's going to be 3 factions that are going to go separately with this campaign only that are going to have some surprises along the way. I mean, this is really like more of a streamlined version of Guards of Atlantis 2, if you will. If you want to make that comparison, just with a lot less complexity, with many, many factions and everything else you want to go along with it. Second box is going to double the size. Third box is going to give you the campaign. And you're going to get a little promos to go along with it as well. I have no idea. This is going to be a lot lighter. It's going to be a lot simpler. It's going to be a lot more straightforward than what you may want. And they're giving you minis if you really want to get some of the STLs as well. So stretch goals, they're going to hit a few. Who knows what this is going to look like at the end. They've got a bunch going up well over 100,000 here. And it's going to cost you a decent amount to get it shipped too. But this is a game you can't get on the secondary market hardly right now as well. So if you want a reprint of this, if you want craziness that comes with a chaotic experience, this is an experience game. But it's not going to be as mechanically deep or complicated in some of those factions that you may want comparatively. Like, it's not going to be Gloomhaven or Frosthaven, folks. It's not going to be Chronicles of Drunagor. It's not going to do something completely obtuse and different than everything else that's out there. But it's going to offer you an experience, and that's what they're selling on this game in the first place. And they have standees. So, you know what? I love me some standees. So that is Worldspanner Factions. Now, Dragon's Down, the remake of Magic Realms. They say they're bringing it back. They are bringing it and saying, what can you do in this sandbox game where destiny beckons and legends are born? Well, you're getting poker chips. They're going along the chip theory route, if you will, for the hex-based map tile exploration, card-driven gameplay that this comes around in the first place. Over 30 turns, you're going to be playing this game, 30 rounds essentially, as this exploration, combat-based, item equipping, mission-bearing, quest-fulfilling style of RPG in a card-driven form. It's going to bring you some different mechanics. It has streamlined Magic Realms in the first place, but don't be fooled by the 17-page rulebook link that they have on the page. The rulebook is incredibly detailed, folks. This is a lot of text going on and a lot of explanations and a lot of nuance in the gameplay as a whole, with everything from your action phase, your battle phases, to how you're going to be combating monsters and the situation that's going to occur when you battle them in the first place, of allocating cubes between the characters that are fighting in a very hidden way, as you can see down here. There's a lot going on in this game in the first place. This was not a simple game in terms of relatively, quick play, but it was offering a slightly different version of things overall. But again, incorporating some of the new stuff, streamlining some of it, is it really going to fit your needs is the thing you have to ask yourself. And, they say that the MSRP of this is going to be $150 and they're offering it for $99. Well, they're offering you now a 6-player expansion to go along with that for another $79. So they're going the chip theory route with these chips, and the price point is definitely reflecting of that. So do you have nostalgia for this? Do you have nostalgia for Duel of Ages? They've got a few add-ons here, extra dice, metal coins, double-layered player boards, a few little unlocks here that they're waiting to hit. So I don't know. This one, I know less about this one than Duel of Ages and Worldspanner. There's a couple preview videos here that you can check out as well, and a little bit of a playthrough here, but really check this one out hard. Give this rulebook a long look-see, because it seems shorter than it is, but it's definitely not. It's got a lot packed in there. But are you going to like those individual edges and, phases that you're going to be going through? Because 30 rounds doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've got a lot of nuance going into each of those phases and realms, that's where the really, the test of time comes in too. But similar funding, similar number of backers. We'll see where it goes. Now, Pax Illuminaten. This is Ion Game Design. I will have a review out from them in the next month or so, talking about my thoughts on Stationfall. Yeah, same company. This is their latest, though. Again, 1 to 4 players, card-driven, heavy sort of Civ-esque game. Now, I looked at this and I said, yeah, this seems kind of cool. You got some nice iconography. You've got a little combo engine building going on. You've got a crunchy game in a small box. Ooh, that sounds intriguing. Card-driven, folks. It's 40 pages long for the rulebook with this one. So, this one is a lot heavier for all of you heavy junkies that somehow found your way onto my crowdfunding roundup, right? And again, cards, and more cards. And so it's going to be that way driven. I have no clue on this one. Gameplay wise, how does this compare? What does this look like to the other Paxes? Is it heavier? Is it lighter? I have no idea, folks. Do you like this sort of thing? I mean, price point, again, if I'm going to criticize Molly House last week for being pretty expensive for cards, I'm going to say the same thing here. It's going to be $60 again for a lot of cards. That's not insignificant. They're also offering another game, Pax Maleficium, and a bundle. They give you a little bit of Maleficium down here. I don't know what the difference is between the two of these. It seems to be maybe a little bit shorter overall. But if you want to know anything more in depth about this, I'd say actually go over to this rules video, the how to play. I think the how to play is still almost 30 minutes long. That's crazy long. And again, I can't do it justice, so I'm not going to try, but I'm going to highlight it as much as I can so you can see whether or not this heavy card-driven gameplay is for you in the first place. Now, Game Toppers 4.0. I feel weird about this one. They were like, early bird, and then I went over to look at the early bird, and it's really just, get them in order of backer number. Like, if you're within a certain backer number, they're going to have it out to you sooner, which was like January or something along those lines. I could really use a game topper, to be frank with you, for this table in itself. I really could use one because especially my top-down videos look horribly unprofessional. Right? Like he said, he cares about looking unprofessional. That's like the whole aesthetic of my channel as a whole. You can confirm in the comment section down below how right I am with that sense. But I'm trying. Designer series. They're going with the Sherlock theme. They've named everything Sherlock. I have no idea. You know, you want this huge table topper, you want some mats. They offer a little bit of a bundle here. And I actually think this is a relatively good deal because they are a little bit of a premium product and this is a pretty good sized mat, right? There you go. Lestrade 3x3 right there. Well, I didn't need to know that. Okay, well, okay, we're going to maybe get the Lestrade. No, I'm already spending enough money this week already as it is. So I don't need any of that. But game toppers are expensive. They're expensive, folks. This is just to sit on your game table. And they offer expedient, if you're getting one of the huge levels, like the Mycroft, essentially, is one of the big savings for them. Or no, maybe it's the Young Sherlock package. But I mean, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a table. You know, I don't even have a place to put a table. We have a kitchen table, folks. That's what I play on. It's called the kitchen table. And I can't even leave games out there because I have 3 kids. And 3 kids don't let stuff lie whatsoever. You want all these extras. You want all these add-ons. Go check it out. Again, they have a great product. I mean, people, you know, have been buying their stuff for years and years and years. And there's a bunch of videos down here from people you'll know and people you'll see. And you'll get to check out how they feel about it firsthand. But this always feels weird for me buying it online, anything more than like a game map, because if you're like me, I kind of want to see it firsthand because I see all these secondhand accounts online of, you know, variants of what is really good quality and what isn't. And I just can't tell without hands-on. I mean, that's about all I can say. There's enough previews. There's enough, I feel weird previews. Anyway, that's a whole segue, right? Like right after this or in the next day or two, I'm going to record a video talking about previews and reviews again. It just came up on one of the forums I'm a part of. And, you know, surprisingly, it was more divisive than I thought, right? I didn't think it was going to be as divisive as it was, but I feel weird when these are previews. I don't know what to say. Anyway, if you like their product, go back them. Go do it. They have stuff at retail too, though. You get it slightly cheaper here. There you go. So next up, Dracula's Curse. Again, this is one that I had no clue was even coming this week. I think I saw one Facebook ad for it. It's got $100,000, right? That's insane for, again, how little information is actually on the page. So, again, take that for what you will. The aesthetic, again, is probably the big attractor for a lot of people at this point. But this is a one versus all Dracula versus vampire hunters. But if your vampire hunter dies, you become a vampire. And so you go until either somebody kills Dracula, all the vampire hunters turn into vampires, or vampire completes its quest. And so that's what you're getting out of it. It's card driven and you're taking one of 8 different actions on somehow this masterful dungeon manipulation, it says in the first place. I don't really know. You're going to be constructing rooms as Dracula, setting traps and gaining skills, but there's going to be some sort of relationship in terms of the cards that you can play along with it. Several different decks that you're going to be utilizing and pulling from as you slowly create your character, essentially, as the game goes on. You can only have so many cards in your hand. You can only draw from like one deck in a turn. They give you a Cthulhu expansion to go with, you know, that's what I thought with Dracula. Dracula and Cthulhu, hand in hand. Anyway, a little bit of exclusive here, but the how to play, I mean, again, it doesn't really give you the full gist of things. You choose your character, you put it at the entrance. You activate the features. You have one of these 8 actions, drawing from one of the 3 decks I mentioned. They don't tell you exactly what these actions are. You gain essence, or whatever that is, if you're Dracula, and then you get to move Dracula's tokens and build rooms and maybe get abilities to play. They tell you what happens when die, and again, when the game ends. That's it. And so, yeah, I mean, $55 and $75, including the expansion, $115 for the collector's edition, which is going to get you an enamel pin, some stickers, and some box art and a poster. But some holoflows too, right? A few stretch goals. Again, I just don't know what you're doing. And so I'm always confuddled by the fact that people are throwing $100,000 at this when I have no clue what the mechanisms are whatsoever. The aesthetic is winner, but are you willing to go out on a limb and say this game is going to be for you? I'm not saying whether or not it's good or not, but I can't even tell exactly what's going on a turn-by-turn basis exactly. So I'd love to see some more information. We'll see where it goes. Next up, Mons Mages, $20,000. Again, this one I don't really have a best grasp on. There is a rulebook. It's a 20-page rulebook for a combo-driven engine builder with a medium weight card-driven aspect. We are taming and training monsters in sort of a 3-character card monster combination at a time, if you will. Mixing and matching between the monsters attracting them, gathering them, taming them, and unleashing them when their mana builds up and you can fully utilize their abilities to the best extent. That's probably the best origin summary I can give you here. You're going to be choosing from several different packs to be including in a game-by-game basis the number of players plus one. Then you're going to be mixing and matching both cards from the decks as well as the trick cards in order to activate on a turn-by-turn basis one of your two types of cards, either your landmarks or your Mons in the first place. That's kind of what you need to know-ish, but the deluxeification here is going to get you a boss expansion that you can play up against more solo character bosses, as well as a little bit of new aspects to give you a little bit more variety content as a whole. $39 for the card-driven base game with the expansion promo, and the landmark promo as well as the deluxeified version is going to be $49. A few stretch goals that they haven't hit yet, a few that they have, a few social goals, and the rulebook right there. But this again is one that you really are going to need the rulebook, and even reading through the rulebook, maybe it's because I've already read a dozen rulebooks today, but I think you might want to look into this one if they have some video content down here from a few people like Rado. I think you're going to get a better sense of the game flow more there than anything else. So give that a hard look-see. Card-driven, combo-rific game with monsters and mages and wizards and spells and shooting mana. Yeah. Interesting take on things. I want to see what you can do with a card-driven combo engine builder. So there you go. $20,000 again. Let's go over to UBOOT. UBOOT, the board game, the collector's edition. This is no longer a miniature, right? $120,000. 11,000 people are saying, I have the space, the time, and the effort to do this massively Captain Sonar oversized version of a game. As you essentially assume the roles of several different portions of the U-boat in the first place, combat missions, campaign, and, conducting submarine operations ad nauseum, as close as you're going to get to a war simulation, if you will. Woo! 199 pounds. And yeah, it's not available at retail. So Flanix Games has definitely stayed true to that. 69 though, if you don't want the big boy. But at least 99 if you just want the big boy. Ooh, you want the game to go with it though? It's going to be at least 160 pounds altogether. 199 if you want everything. I mean, it's expensive. This is the ultimate Captain Sonar game, folks. Do you have the dedicated wherewithal in a group? But I'll make the argument this isn't going to be a game that you're going to pull out once every quarter and play it on a Saturday night and remember all the things you need to know and how your asymmetric role is going to be best utilized in addition to the other aspects and dynamics of the other players at the same time. Forbid you even play with different people with this app-based system. I mean, it doesn't raise another $100,000 if it wasn't attractive and people didn't like the gameplay. But it's complex. There's a lot of asymmetric dynamics that you're going to be dealing with. Can you teach people a la a cooperative route? That's kind of the vibe overall that you're going to need with this game. Not in a bad way, but as a this is what you need to know sort of thing. And it's expensive. And it's an indie game. So do you want that sort of thing or not? They're back and they're offering it again on crowdfunding. So UBOOT, you go. With all the big stuff launching this week, this one is actually flying under the radar. Again, I didn't know it was coming, but it's a really intriguing puzzle-like game. Anywhere from what 1 to 6 players here. You're just sort of sliding tabs and blocks in order to get the treasure and make it to the end and escape. And so what you're doing here, and this is vibe and this theme looks very similar, and it's actually from the creators of Relics of Rahavihara, and you're getting this sliding to adventure game, trying to get to this through the secret city that can only be seen from the top of this little temple right here. And so you're going to be sliding these tabs that you can see down here in order to make a path that is contiguous, a la sort of a Race to the Raft style game in the first place. So you start out with 3 of these sacred stones and you slide them in, trying to connect similar ones, and that will create a path that you can slide along as far as you can. Then the tricky part is these blocks are going to be trying to do the same as the AI system, trying to get all the way to the end before you, sort of Indiana Jones style, to prevent you, not to kill you, but prevent you from getting out of the tomb in the first place. And you're going to be collecting the knowledge along the way and trying to, get out before the blocks close off your escape in the first place. The rulebook is right there. Check it out. There's a little bit of video content here if you really want as well. Again, it's a pretty pricey indie game for $59. Take it for what you will. Stretch goals, we'll see. They've got a little bit of extra from their previous campaigns going on here as well. And that's about it right now. Stretch goals, you're just getting slight upgrades. So, again, it's got a good pedigree. People really like this as a solo puzzle style game. I can see why it's funded. But again, like I said earlier, which deluxified version or indie version game this week is for you or this month? That's what you got to weigh. Next up, Reforest. It gives me a combination vibe of the previously mentioned Verdant from the makers of AEG Flatout with a little bit of an Earth vibe as well, both from an aesthetic but also a gameplay mechanistic approach, because what you're doing here is you're drafting these plant cards and you're slowly planting them consecutively next to each other trying to combo build, and you're going over 3 rounds where you're drafting them either from the center up market or from the available stack, and you go until the cards are depleted, and you do that 3 times, scoring each at the end of the round as well bonus points as an animal visitor enters your particular domain, and whoever does the most appeasing domain to the animal is going to get bonus points in that regard as well. They run you through some of the gameplay as well as the iconography that goes along with this thematically incorporated plant-based system, and they give you a spatial puzzle awareness just like Verdant was and Earth was in the first place. It's a little bit lighter. It's going to be very aesthetically the same though. Which is your ilk? Check out the rules version, check out the print and play, solitaire playthrough as well, so a little bit of everything there. Shipping is fine. It's a little bit of a lighter version of both of those 2 games as a whole. Very similar. I told you the aesthetic recently is Earth and nature and everything else, and Reforest sticks with it, and tried and true. It's funded over $5,000. Let's go. Now, next up, Escape Room. Only Escape Room game as a heavy Euro game? Yeah, $22,000 for this heavy Euro game of escape room management as you're trying to build your own escape room series and trying to attract the most customers, make the most money, and ultimately have the best park, if you want, from an escape room style at the end of the game. And again, don't be fooled by the name of the game. This is a little bit of a heavier Euro style placement game with cubes that you're going to be managing on a turn-by-turn basis, having enough action cubes in order to play in the escape room that is unlocked, trying to attract more customers, trying to book groupings, and trying to achieve the upgraded experiences that your customers want in the first place. Interestingly enough, here with the tie-in, they actually say this was designed by escape room experts in the first place. So it's going to be definitely a skill-driven Euro game from that aspect, simulating what you would expect in the first place of a meta, escape room, if you will. Sort of like Millennium Blades is the meta Magic the Gathering, if you will, where you're deck pulling in that sense. The rulebook, again, is going to be a little bit deeper. It's going to be a little bit heavier. Another 20-page rulebook here. It runs you through the phases that you're going to be doing on a turn-by-turn basis, including, like I mentioned, booking groups, targeting customers, the maintenance, which is where you have to have these cubes available to you in order to take your actions as a whole. Then you're choosing one of the additional actions that's available to you in said room in the first place. And if you have enough cubes to activate it, you can do more actions than even one. And then it runs you through exactly what each of these different actions are, from marketing and communication, research and development for your room in the first place, as well as additional services and venues that your escape room can offer, including even things like private parties. Rinse and repeat, play over 4 rounds here and calculate the end game scoring as a whole. Interesting twist on things, getting a little meta there. Going to cost you about $45 or so right now. Again, it runs you through exactly what I just said here with a few GIFs, and so you can see a little bit in briefer synopses and points here what it looks like overall. Rado's got a couple videos. Again, this one, you're going to want to watch a video. You're going to want to watch the video. There's a lot of that this week, but if you have really, any interest in this whatsoever, that's going to be where your main interest has to lie. A few deluxifications, a little bit of an expansion venue to go along with it. It's a deluxe Euro, folks. Priced less than a lot of the other deluxe Euros on crowdfunding, but with the shipping, it's still probably going to run you close to $100 if you get the expansion to go along with it. So $100 Euro, what do you think? Where do you go? How do you compare it? Escape Room Tycoon, there you go. Now we're going over to Timelancers. This is a relaunch. It's been funded though. Kudos kudos. And so what you're doing here is you are slowly laying your workers out over a hex-based. Hex-based is also the thematic incorporation of the week, with time traveling being the main key here. You're going to be hex hopping from one to the other with a 4-action turn-by-turn basis until you complete your time travel hex narrative essentially in a row. And there's going to be enforcers that are going to be blocking these worker placement spots, because as you land on these hexes, they allow you to take actions, and you can do 4 of them per turn, but you cannot go back over on one that you've already done potentially, unless you like encircle all the way back around. The enforcers block those actions. The enforcers go after everyone has taken their turns, and you're going to be slowly collecting events and putting them in, time sequential order on your player board, with the ability not only to have them manipulated by yourself, but also the enforcers, and you're going to be able to lock them to prevent that from happening in addition. And there's going to be lots of events. There's going to be lots of different manipulation that's going to be available along the way. And again, this one has a good pedigree, and that's why I was a little bit surprised it didn't fund the first time, right? Cardboard Edison is not an unknown. You've got other things, I think, even just like Diatribes and, the Cardboard Edisons, the Zenobias. These things are getting awarded for a reason, right? Like, people are going to poo-poo those. I have never heard of them. But you know what? There's a decent enough amount of games that get submitted to those that they actually are weeding out stuff that isn't just, it's not just superfluous, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Right? Like I said, move through the city, gather your resources, grab these events, put them in based on the factions that you have, and it's modular completely in the way it's set up. So do you like it? Do you want some take that? Do you want some area control as you're maneuvering because you can't go in other areas that other people have already controlled? It's freaking actually a good price here. I was really surprised that it was only $39. Do I need a game mat? No. Do you need some of the other stuff down here with the game mat? Well, it gets you expansion too for $59. So again, everything's throwing in expansion this week as well, which always makes me a little bit nervous. The deluxified version is fine too. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to offer one deluxification, I guess make it a map. And one versus many, not sure how I feel about that as the variant with the expansion. Also up to 5. Again, my player count situations from that standpoint. So, for me as an indie game, you're going to get the lower pledge level. It's going to be probably a roll of a dice though if this is widely available. I mean, that's sort of why I'm going back and forth with Diatribes right now in the late pledging, because I just don't think it's going to be widely available, and I really like it, but I also kind of want to wait and see if it isn't. And so that's just another one right up that alley. And enough preview videos, enough content down here that you can check it out. And for some reason, my videos aren't loading right now, but you can see. And so there you go. Previews, playthroughs. Someday, you know what? Campaigns are just going to stop carrying videos that aren't previews altogether, but that's not now, but we'll talk about that in the future. Timelancers, there you go. Congrats on funding, by the way. Let's hop over to GameFound. Again, I'm super surprised by this one. I went into this knowing next to nothing about this game. I know it's a remastered edition. I know it's a 10-year anniversary. I know it's cooperative. People kind of like it. It's under the radar. Does it stand up to the test of time? And I'm really tempted right now. I won't lie to you. Again, this is a horrible week for a wallet, but it's got almost $500,000. And why does it have almost $500,000? Because they're going sort of the Bezier route. They're going the super deluxified version where you're getting expansions that aren't going to be even available at retail, they say. Now, at retail, take that for what it is, right? Not available at retail. So take that with a grain of salt. And I kind of cringe when I see that's at the top, right? 1,000 components. Oh my gosh, setup, tear down, put away, storage. Oh, good gracious, right? That's the biggest concern I have. But essentially what you're doing is you're going to have potentially up to 13 scenarios or more, maybe, in the game itself, in the core at least, that they're going to be releasing. And so 7 are remastered scenarios and 6 are going to be new ones. And essentially what you're doing is in a cooperative game, you're slowly tile laying as you explore throughout this tomb. And you have these individual scenarios that are going to give you different win and lose conditions as you go along, and potentially up to like 8 different characteristics you're going to be managing. And you're going to be doing die combat where you are rolling successes and critical fails to see whether or not you can get enough successes or enough fails to either do damage to creatures, to do skill checks, or anything else in between, including traps and fighting bosses. And what you're going to be having to do as you go along is you're taking 2 actions on your turn of potentially like half a dozen or so different actions that are going to be available to you. And you're going to be moving, revealing tokens, revealing different rooms that are going to have different abilities and actions you can take in them, as well as surprises, traps, all of those, etc., etc. But you're going to be having 3 different levels of the tomb that you're going to be potentially having to go through and deal with the creatures as they spawn, as they move towards you on a turn-by-turn basis. And the combat is going to be probably the most divisive part of this. Is it's a die rolling combat. Essentially, what you're doing is you roll 5s and 6s, which are successes. And if those are successes, then that is your defensive value. If your defensive value total successes plus whatever your normal defense is less than the attack value of the creature, well, then you take damage equal to the difference. But you also lose courage. Courage is also one of the ways that you potentially lose this game, is because if your courage goes down to 0, because every time you create a creature, it causes you to lose courage. If your courage goes down to -10, then you flee, and you can potentially lose just the same way as if you die. But you can, you can have your cooperative folks help you out to gain some courage back, so you don't have to flee all the way out of the tomb, because otherwise you'll run uncontrollably. And so you're going to be managing and going through each of these different scenarios with different win and loss conditions, going through these different scenarios, seeing what you need to do, seeing how you can do it, and just with all new art, new graphics, everything else designed that way. Now, what are we getting though with the new stuff, right? Okay, the base game alone with the free expansion and extra dice, because you're going to be rolling a lot of dice, is still going to cost you $100. That's expensive. Now, the everything in with this, the 3 original ones, is going to be $200. Ooh, $199. 4 expansions included total. Okay. Never pay for anything that you have to pay monthly for, folks. Never. So it's all or nothing. And the everything here for another $100 gets you the remastered expansions and everything else to go along with it. So basically everything for $300. And what are you getting here? Upgraded expansion, content, and deluxeifications for $400. That's insanity. Like, I don't even know what any of these expansions are offering. I'm assuming they're offering like a little bit more scenarios as well. Can you imagine $60 a month for this? I'm sorry. $80. You get to be $80 a month. Holy crap. Again, I just want to see what's in all of these different expansions. That's the thing I don't know. You're getting a whole bunch of unlocks here. This one might be worth just picking up the base game and the expansion, or maybe an expansion or 2. But I have no idea. I have no idea if this is, expansion-wise worth it. 10 different expansion packs, right? If you didn't have enough of the 1,000 components in the base game alone, they run you through some of the scenarios here. And again, the only thing I wonder about is how different are these scenarios? Are they different enough? You're getting new stuff along the way with all of them. But for people who have played it in the past, you go over to the Board Game Geek forums and say which ones are the best ones. And for the new ones, you're kind of, again, literally, figuratively speaking, rolling the dice. Yeah, I know I said that sentence. Take it for what it is. But how do you tell? You can't. You can't right now. And that's okay. But then if you can't tell, folks, do you get all of it? No, you don't. If you're going to buy $200 and $300 worth of game, you're going to expect this is going to cost you anywhere between $30 and $50 to ship. That's just a massive box in the first place. So I give them kudos. They're putting out something that people really want from that side of things. And, you don't get $500,000 in the first couple days almost by putting out something people don't want. So I hate to say it. It's on my radar, though, now. So take it for what it is. DreamEscape. This is the solo version of 7th Continent in a scenario-based choose-your-own-adventure style game with a horror Cthulhu theme with a few expansions that are going to be card-driven to go along with it. And it's a skill check system that is going to be slightly different than what you're used to. It's not die rolling. It is essentially putting out the little triangles that match the sides of them. And if you have enough little Cthulhu symbols that match it, you either succeed or you fail based on that. A few little stretch goals that are going along with it. But I mean, it doesn't even hide the fact that it's a solo version, folks. You can play it cooperatively and handhold kumbaya, it says. But it's going to be mainly for those people that want sort of a narrative-based card-driven reading. Choose your own adventure in a card-driven tabletop format. Okay, you want each one of these expansions? Again, there's 4 of them to go along with it. I have no idea. I've gotten away from narrative. You heard me say earlier, I'm not a big solo person in this edition. It's beautifully, pleasingly, aesthetically awesome, but is the gameplay going to be for you? That's what you have to ask yourself for, especially when we've got a lot of these nowadays, and how you like all of these mitigations and too much mythos and all of these tokens that are going to be ways that you can deal with things and affect things and items that you're going to be discovering. So, I mean, there's a lot going on there too, but the core loop of the gameplay is what you really need to be aware of. So, I'll leave it at that. Check out some of the video down here as well. Preview, and a few review comments as well. So, there you go. A lot of information. And check out the gameplay if you're really, really interested, though, on this one. The rulebook, again, another 30 to 40 pages. Just like FormulaGP, which is the racer's racer game, if you will. Now, this is, almost just 60% funded or so. And this is like the gamer's game for racing games, if you like that sort of thing. This is going to give you a ton of customization, a ton of minutia that you're going to be managing, from tires to fuel to teams to action cards to everything that you can think of along the way. The Luxified version is going to give you car miniatures to go along with it as well. And it's just going to be really a complex, minutia-driven card racing game. And that's okay if you want this. I mean, heat pedal to the metal on steroids, broken down into all of the individual elements of the car that you're going to be managing, from your team you're going to be managing, and everything to go along with that. I can't speak to whether or not this is good or not. It allows you at least similarly to go through 3 different game modes that are going to slowly introduce you to those different components as you get used to them and slowly ramp up what you're comfortable with and how much of that you want. But I fear if you're not going into it saying, I want the advanced race mode, you're potentially also just like I've talked about with 5 to 6 player expansions, right? You're potentially buying part of a game that you don't want in the first place. So you have to really be going in wanting all of these aspects and using it to learn, but you can't go in this going, I want only like the medium normal standard mode, because then you're going to end up with a lot of these elements like the team radios, the pit stops, the low fuel bonuses, the risks in the weather that just aren't going to fit with what you want gameplay wise. So the rulebook is out there, how to plays are on here as well, but this is, you know, a very heavy driven racing game, and niche within a niche, but it's still got ways to go before it funds. There you go, FormulaGP. Now, board game gear essentials, adventure bag, playmats, they're coming back to us here at Crafting Kingdoms, and I think their last 2 have actually been over on GameFound, so this is another improved version of things coming from them. I believe I talked about one of their other previous products when their crowdfunding campaign was live as well in the past, and they're offering you just a little bit more of an upgraded product here. I mean, and when I say upgraded product, I mean that, right? These bags are bigger, tougher, more customization available, as well as if we go down here further, you're going to see these playmats that are actually LED lit up. And these are actually really freaking cool, aesthetically speaking. Speaking of deluxifications this week, right? If you're going to deluxify something, you know, if I brought games places, right? This is my kind of aesthetic, though. So, yeah, I believe I worked with them previously, and I think they're going to send me something to talk about, but maybe not to. So I wouldn't be surprised either way. But I'd love to have one of these bags. But again, what's the price point on something like this? Let's check. And we get to retailers and playmats. Okay, so playmats, actually, that's about comparable to game toppers that we talked about earlier. You know, it's going to be slightly less, because I think the game topper for the 36 by 36, which is what my table is down below here, is $59 over on game toppers, and this is going to put it in the low 50s here. So not terribly different either way from that style. And the LED playmat's going to put you about the same price as well. So LED, that would actually be, I'd worry that the LED playmat is going to be too much, like going to be too light and bright for my setup, but that's really tempting. I like the colors. I'm a, you know, minimalist aesthetic. So, yeah, cool stuff they got going on here. They just haven't got as much traction though overall, I think, as some of the other bigger companies. I wonder why that is. I don't know. Maybe that's the reason they're on Kickstarter again, so that they can get a little bit more of that regular traffic, because I feel like, again, GameFound's traffic for stuff like this is a lot lower overall, but I think this is actually doing a lot better than some of their other campaigns over on GameFound, especially from the beginning. A little lower funding goal though, but really cool aesthetic. I like the aesthetic better than the Sherlock Holmes stuff, as big a Sherlock fan as I am though. So there you go. Board game gear essentials. Next up, Alpenglow, 20,000 of 30,000, 2/3 of the way funded, just launched. 2 to 5 player engine build style pick up and deliver game, if you will, as you're gathering skiers from bus stops, bringing them up to the top of the mountain where your lodge is, and then slowly building your lifts and your resort in that sense, your routes, so that they can go down the mountain in various ways to earn you victory points as well as money to continue building along the way. And so this is going through 2 big rounds before the end of the game and scoring up your victory points at the end, but you're going to be taking through 4 phases of this game in order to do so. First is you're going to be laying down this bus route. Essentially what you do is you lay 5 buses adjacent to each other on these buildings that are going to be present. And then one by one, you take them off, get those actions, and gather those skiers then to bring them up to the top of your mountain to then put them down on your lifts and your paths. And so as you're doing that, you're going to gather resources. You're going to be playing cards on a turn-by-turn basis as you go along with that to get additional actions after you're pulling the skiers off. And then you're rinsing and repeating that a certain number of times, 5 and then another 5 before the end of the game. You're going to have to read the rulebook, another 20-page rulebook here. It's a little bit, like I said, pick up and deliver, a little bit of engine build, and it's got some asymmetry with the build setup that you can do in the first place, because you're going to have it adjusted on the board perfectly to make it balanced. But if you really want to spice things up, they allow you to mix up the boards in terms of the buildings and some of the placements initially to give a little bit more chaos as a whole as well. The price point here at the base level is just going to be $59. So they've got a few little stretch goals here when they hit the funding goal down here, a how to play video as well as we go by here, a few comments from the videos, and then a mini expansion here when they fund. So again, you know, indie game. You're not going to see this elsewhere in terms of wide retail. So if you want it from Waterworks, this is their first game, and check it out if you want. Skiing, I don't see a lot of this, so kind of a unique incorporation there in the first place. Now, Dice Treasure. Dice Treasure is almost 50% funded at the time of me filming this. Essentially what you're doing is you're drafting dice from the center, playing them on these combo cards, and trying to fill them up over a certain number of turns. If you can't complete them, then you slide them to the middle, and then the dice that are available, then anybody can complete those cards in order to earn the points, earn the most points by the end of the game, because, well, that's what you want to do. The tokens and cards are going to give you coins, and you just want the most. So rulebook is there. What's in the box? Unique colored cards there. A little bit of almost a Sagrada-esque vibe with the cards and the dice. And the Luxified version, whew, that's a pretty penny there. $65 for trays and coins and bonus cards. I hate locking gameplay content, though. There you go, 50% funded. We'll see if it goes and if it makes it by the end. Next up, City of Myrkesh, almost 50% funded at the time of me filming this. New game from Grindstones. And so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be talking about a little bit of deck building in an asymmetric manner, fighting enemies along the way. And the tricky part is, and I wish there was a little bit more on the page here, I didn't see a rulebook at the time of me filming this. Now, I might have missed it, but the most interesting mechanic I actually had to get over from one of the written reviews. Because what you've got going on here is you've got these cards that you're going to be building up, right? You start off with the same 10 cards as everyone else. But in the first phase of things, you're going to be drafting your cards, buying your cards, taking your actions. But then the second part of things, you're going to be potentially also fighting monsters, but you're going to be moving your character around the map in order to actually get to these monsters in the first place. And the interesting mechanic here is if you want to move, you tap the card essentially Magic style, and you get to move one space. But if you do it vertically, you actually get the ability. And so how you mitigate and how you choose to do one versus the other in the cards that you're drawing on a turn-by-turn basis is really the key dynamic of this game in the first place. And again, you can see that these cards appear just for, you know, clarity's sake. There's a lot of text there going on. So you can see that there's going to be a lot of potential involvement from a card by card basis in a hand that you're going to be drawing of 5 cards each turn. And you're going to have 5 different decks that you're going to be drawing from to give you unique asymmetric ways of building your deck, fighting, scoring victory points by the end of the game in the first place. And so how you want to do that is, well, up to you in that sense. And so you're going to be attacking, you're going to be reorienting, you're going to be dealing, going up against the monsters that are in the city in the first place. $55 for the base, $70 for the expansion, as well as the extra exclusive stuff down here with the extra model. But again, there's not any more information on the page from that sense. And, you know, none of those mechanics that I just talked to you about, none of the actual details of how to play is on here. You're going to have to actually watch one of these videos or click on one of the reviews. And so just if you're doing the eyeball test, right? Why is your game unique? What gives your game different stance? What are each of these different decks bringing to you? How are these different decks unique? What are some of the characteristics of each of these decks? Like, I don't see any of that. I don't even see how many cards you're drawing, right? I mean, so just little things like that. This page needs just a little bit more information. You've got a unique product, emphasize it, tell people why. And then I don't think you should have a problem hitting your goal. So we'll see where it goes. City of Myrkesh. Last but not least, this week we're talking about Ynaros Fallin. And again, I'm going to say a personal mea culpa here. They sent me this prototype like months and months and months and months and months ago, and I completely screwed it up. Like, I completely played it wrong. I had the wrong rulebook, an old rulebook, and so I apologize to them publicly right now. This seems like a really interesting, cool game because this is a 1 versus 1 dueler where you're basically gathering up and a little bit of area control, a little bit of upgrading, a little bit of actually controlling your opponent's actions via your own abilities. And so what you're doing on this board is you're essentially laying out a path that you're going to carve along and go across, trying to area control some of these in order to score points. But you're also going to be manipulating the board. You're going to be affecting the other person's characters, if you will, at the same time. And you're going to have significant asymmetry between the two factions that you're going up. Now, there's an expansion that offers another layer of complexity as well, the darkness here that we'll talk about in a second. And so you can see that exploration, new abilities, upgrading your characters, and how the magic is going to be slowly evolving on each side. We go down here, you can see the expansion with the Dark Adventures. Again, gives you a little bit more content, a little bit exclusives that are going along with it. But you can see here you go. On your turn, you take 2 of 4 actions. Increase your energy that it's going to be required to take the actions in the first place, building the tiles along your path, exploring new magic lands to gain more abilities, and then controlling other people's abilities by manipulating them in the first place. You can upgrade your workers as well as you go along, and then as you gain experience, power, and energy, you can harness additional ways on the board in order to gain more victory points or just beat your opponent down until they lose. You're going to be activating the tiles as you go across, gathering magic, gathering energy, gathering resources in order to be able to best your opponent in the first place. Again, it's about a 30-page rule book for this 1 versus 1 dueler, and so you're going to just need to know what you get into. Now, you can play as a team game as well, so check that out if you're interested. You know, the 1-1-1-1 style, where you're going back and forth until somebody again loses. But it's got a lot going on. It's definitely a different vibe overall. And now knowing what it is compared to what I thought it was initially, it's, you know, more and more intriguing. But it's also going to be a little bit more complex than a lot of the other 1 versus 1 straight up duelers that you may be used to. So you just need to be aware of that as well. So if that appeals to you, the price point is relatively good for a deluxified, even with the expansion content here. And I think the overall aesthetic is really appealing as well. Do you need the playmat? Probably not. Do you need all the other stuff? Probably not. But it's really got a cool vibe going, and it's definitely different from other stuff that we've seen on crowdfunding, especially from the 1 versus 1 dueling side of things in the first place. So they're hitting a few stretch goals as well here with a little bit of deluxified upgrades. Shipping's going to be what it's going to be. So they're killing it, actually. What are we at? Like almost $20-some thousand at the point of this filming this? Yeah, so almost 5 times their funding goal. Kudos for them putting out a good product that people want. There you go. Ynaros Fallin. So there you go. That is the roundup this week. This is probably the longest roundup of the most games I've ever covered in 1 week. My brain is burned out. My mouth is burned out. I screwed up a couple times in there just talking. You know, how many takes I had to do with a couple of these games. It was a ton, folks. It was a ton. Way too many. But I covered them all for you. You probably only chose 1 or 2 games to watch, and then maybe you came to this endpoint at the beginning, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on next week, but next week I may even start talking about the games going on in November instead to give you some prep there and to prep myself as well for the retail November. I got a couple games I got to cover, and I have a secret surprise hit for you. Secret surprise hit. What is the best Awaken Realms game that has been released? Little food for thought there. Little food for thought there. Just putting something out there. Yeah, and I'll have another review as well coming out. We're talking about 5 games, or maybe even 6 in one. I'm gonna rapid fire just like the one I did a couple weeks ago that people really like, the post Essen, you know, newer releases one. This one's gonna be very similar. So apart from that, that's all I got. I got a couple games. Again, I'm actually getting more caught up on reviews because of that one as well. And then I'm only about 2 or 3 games behind on the upcoming crowdfunding ones for next month. And so I'm doing really well right now. And so then I'll have some free time to talk about other stuff. And it's been a while since we've done a news video, so we'll probably have one of those in the near future. Also, by the way, did you guys like me talking about the challenge in last week's video? I like talking about the challenge. Could talk about it for 10 or 15 minutes here. I won't, though, because this video is already probably one of, if not the longest video on my channel in the first place with the most games I've ever talked about. So kudos for me doing so many, I guess. I don't know. If you want to help me do this on a weekly basis, my Patreon is still going strong, even though I have not given them an update recently, so I will be doing that shortly after this. So, thank you. If you're willing, thank you if you want to. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching at this point. I don't know what else to say. I'm done. Peace out. Thanks, Jeremy Howard. I see you. Stay classy. Almost forgot to say it. Ah!